Welcome to Beyond the Ages. Before we begin, make sure you're subscribed, because what you're about to hear is one of the most chilling psychological operations ever carried out in the name of revolution. For 76 days, what happened to Marie Antoinette wasn't imprisonment. It was disassembly. A methodical, deliberate erosion of a human being. And the entire process began with an 8-year-old child. Forget the guillotine for a moment. That blade, quick, final, almost merciful, is not the horror of this story. What came before it was darker, more intimate, calculated with a precision that still unsettles historians today. This is the story of Prisoner 280. And tonight, I'm going to show you what they did to her, step by step. It's the night of July 3rd, 1793. The Temple prison in Paris is silent, except for one sound. Heavy, deliberate, echoing down stone corridors toward a locked chamber. Inside, Marie Antoinette sleeps beside her 8-year-old son, Louis Charles, her hand resting on his chest. Since the execution of his father 6 months earlier, she has not let him out of her sight. Then the door bursts open. 6 guards step inside, holding a decree, an order that will shatter the final thread holding her together. They've come for the boy. What happens next reverberates through the prison for nearly an hour. The queen disappears, and a mother emerges, raw, desperate, feral. She lunges at the doorway. She screams until her voice rips apart. She begs them to take her. But here's what gives this moment its true cruelty. This wasn't chaos. It wasn't impulsive. It was engineered. Because the revolutionaries had realized something essential. Marie Antoinette could endure humiliation. She could survive hunger, surveillance, and threats. But she could not withstand harm to her children. And so they turned her love into a weapon. Before we descend further, you need to understand who she really was. Because the woman they destroyed in 1793 bore little resemblance to the caricature her enemies spent years crafting. Born Maria Antonia in Vienna, 1755, the youngest daughter of Empress Maria Theresa. She entered French history at age 14, married not for affection, but for diplomacy. France and Austria wanted peace. She was the price. The French court never welcomed her. She was foreign. She was young. She didn't speak their language or understand their rigid etiquette. They mocked how she walked, dressed, smiled. Even her husband remained distant for 7 years, an intimacy failure that became international gossip. So she retreated into distraction. Lavish gowns, elaborate hairstyles, evenings at her private retreat, the Petit Trianon. The starving people saw luxury and blamed her for everything. Madame Deficit, the foreign parasite draining France. Did she ever say the infamous line, "Let them eat cake"? No, but the myth stuck. By the time revolution erupted in 1789, she was not hated for her deeds, but for what she symbolized: wealth, monarchy, foreignness, womanhood. She was the perfect villain. But the Marie Antoinette of 1793 was no longer the glittering figure of Versailles. She was a mother of 4 who had watched one child die of illness. She'd witnessed her husband's execution. She was imprisoned with her remaining children, clinging to the only pieces of family she had left. Yet even then, the revolutionaries believed she hadn't suffered enough. The temple prison, a medieval fortress turned political cage, was designed not for confinement, but for corrosion. She and her children were confined under constant observation. Guards recorded every conversation, every gesture, every moment of affection. They noticed something. Marie Antoinette never broke when threatened personally. But when her children were vulnerable, she unraveled. And so the psychological assault began. First, they limited her access to the children. She had to beg to see them, a queen reduced to pleading with men who delighted in denying her. Then they placed guards inside their rooms, watching even the most intimate moments. Her children were forbidden from speaking German, their mother's native tongue. Even their private family world was stripped away. Her hair began turning white, a phenomenon later named after her. She stopped eating. She developed internal bleeding. She was deteriorating. But she still had her children, and that meant she could still be broken further. July 3rd, 1793, the night everything changed. When the guards stormed in to seize Louis Charles, Marie Antoinette became pure instinct. She clutched her son, held him so tightly he woke up crying. The guards insisted. The order was final. He was to be re-educated by the Republic. For 60 minutes she resisted, physically blocking the doorway, screaming, begging, bargaining. It was useless. Madame Elizabeth pleaded with her to stop. The guards grew threatening. Her daughter sobbed. Her son trembled. Finally, Marie Antoinette broke. She kissed the boy one final time. She whispered something into his ear, words lost forever. And she watched, unblinking, as 6 grown men dragged her child away. His screams faded down the stairwell. She collapsed and lay motionless on the stone floor. But the horror was only beginning. Her son was placed with Antoine Simon, a radical cobbler tasked with reshaping the child into a revolutionary symbol. Locked in a dark cell, forced to curse his parents, to repeat lies, to internalize hatred. He was beaten, starved, isolated, until his will shattered. Within weeks, the boy echoed whatever they demanded of him, including accusations so vile they would later be used to destroy his mother. Marie Antoinette didn't know the details, only that her child was suffering somewhere in the same building, and she could do nothing. And then came her transfer to the conciergerie. Dragged from her prison cell at 2 in the morning, denied even a goodbye to her daughter, she was taken to the infamous antechamber of death, a dungeon where prisoners awaited execution. There, she became prisoner 280. Her cell was tiny, damp walls, straw mattress, a table, a single candle, and 2 guards. Her at all times, even when she ate, even when she slept, even when she used the chamber pot behind a useless folding screen. The screen was not privacy. It was mockery. Her health declined rapidly. Her hair fell out. She bled constantly. At night, guards heard her whispering her son's name over and over, the only connection she had left. Then came the trial. October 14th, 1793. The courtroom was packed. Officials, journalists, citizens, eager to witness the spectacle. The charges were political theater, treason, conspiracy, corruption. She answered each accusation with poise. She admitted faults without groveling. She refused to be their caricature. So the prosecution played their final card. They used her son. Under coercion, Louis Charles had been forced to accuse his mother of incest. The words of a broken 8-year-old were now hurled at her before a jeering crowd. For the first time, she shattered. She rose to her feet and spoke not to the judges, but to the women in the room. I appeal to all mothers present. Is there one among you who does not feel her soul recoil at such an accusation? A ripple moved through the crowd. Even some who hated her felt the cruelty of what had been done. But it didn't matter. The verdict had been written long before she entered the chamber. Condemned to death, her execution was scheduled for dawn. Back in her cell, she was finally given pen and paper. She wrote not a defense, not a denunciation, but a farewell letter to Madame Elizabeth, a letter filled with love, grief, dignity, and forgiveness. It never reached her. The jailers intercepted it and hid it away in archives. Her final words to her family disappeared for decades. On the morning of October 16th, Marie Antoinette was prepared for death. Her black mourning dress was taken away, replaced with the white chemise of the condemned. Her hair was chopped off crudely, her hands bound painfully behind her back. She was brought into the sunlight after 76 days in darkness. Her husband had been given a closed carriage. She was placed in an open cart meant for animals, forced to endure the screams and insults of thousands as she was taken to the scaffold. A sketch survives. A thin, pale woman sitting upright, dignity intact amid the hatred around. At the guillotine, she climbed the steps without help. Her legs trembled, but she did not falter. And then, the final moment. She stepped on the executioner's foot. She turned to him and said, "Pardon me, sir. I did not mean to do it." Her last words on earth were an apology. Not defiance, not bitterness, not fear. Grace. 20 seconds later, the blade fell. The revolution sought to erase her, to reduce her to a symbol of excess, arrogance, corruption. Yet, in their obsessive attempt to break her, they revealed something else entirely. A mother who fought with every fragment of strength she possessed. A woman who endured humiliation beyond imagination. A human being who, at the threshold of death, chose courtesy over hatred. That they could never take from her. If this story moved you, subscribe to Beyond the Ages. We explore history's darkest and most misunderstood chapters every week. And tell me in the comments, after hearing the truth behind those final 76 days, how do you see Marie Antoinette now? Villain? Victim? Or something far more complex?